The birthday party was a complete train wreck. My parents' faces were so dark you'd think a storm cloud had settled in our living room. No one could believe that the girl they'd practically raised, the one they treated like a second daughter, could stomp all over their son's heart without a second thought. Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan wouldn't stop apologizing, saying they didn't know where they went wrong with Maya, promising they'd make her come over and say sorry. My dad just waved a hand, his voice tight with anger he was barely holding back. "Forget it, Mark. They're not kids anymore. They have their own lives. We should stay out of it." He said that, but you could feel it. A crack had formed between our two families, and I wasn't sure it could ever be fixed. I locked myself in my room, Maya's words echoing in my head. "I hate you." 18 years. We'd known each other our entire lives, grown up side by side. And all this time, in her eyes, I was just some clingy loser who wouldn't leave her alone. It felt like a boulder was sitting on my chest, making it hard to breathe. After senior year wrapped up, my SAT scores came back. I was in the top 1% in the state, a shoo-in for the best architecture program in the country at MIT. It was the school Maya and I had always dreamed of, the place we were supposed to go to together. Now, that dream felt like a sick joke. On the day the college decisions were due, Maya showed up at my front door, acting like nothing had happened. "Liam, you ready? Let's go to the coffee shop and submit our decisions together." She had that same sweet smile plastered on her face, as if her screaming meltdown at my party had been a figment of my imagination. A sharp pain lanced through my chest, but I kept my face a perfect mask of indifference. "Sure," I managed. She hooked her arm through mine, just like she always used to, all bubbly and excited. "We're still both choosing MIT, right?" I didn't answer. Instead, I pulled my arm away and asked her, my voice flat, "Is Caleb going to MIT too?" Caleb Jones, the star quarterback from Northwood High, tall and handsome, the guy every girl seemed to have a crush on. I'd seen Maya watching him from the bleachers at his football games more than once, a look in her eyes I had never seen when she looked at me. Her smile froze. She looked away, suddenly flustered. "Yeah, we talked about it. We're going together." "Oh," I said, the bitterness rising in my throat. She must have sensed the ice in my tone because her smile faded completely. She forced a look of apology. "Liam, I'm sorry. Well, I said before, I was just being stupid and dramatic. Don't take it seriously. When we get to college, we'll still be best friends." "Best friends?" I laughed inwardly, a cold, sharp sound. Who wants to be best friends with a person who publicly humiliated them? Back home, I opened my laptop, pulled up the Common App portal, and deleted Massachusetts Institute of Technology. With a steady hand, I selected my second choice, Georgia Institute of Technology. Same major, architecture. MIT was #1 in the country for architecture. Georgia Tech was in the top 3. For my career, it didn't make much of a difference. But for my life, it felt like the best decision I could possibly make. Get away from her. Get away from the memories that were suffocating me. Chapter 2, the thick acceptance packets from UPS arrived for me and the Sullivans on the same day. Maya, clutching the envelope with the MIT logo, came running over to knock on my door. "Liam, they're here. Let me see yours." Her face was glowing with anticipation, so sure that we were about to spend the next 4 years together. I didn't take the envelope from her. I just handed her mine. When she saw the words Georgia Institute of Technology in elegant gold lettering, her smile vanished. Her eyes went wide with disbelief. "Why?" she asked, her voice trembling with a hurt sense of betrayal. The irony was suffocating. In my entire life, I had never said no to her. This was the first time, and it was the most final. Seeing the disappointment in her eyes didn't give me any satisfaction, just a quiet sense of relief. "I've always wanted to live in the South," I said, inventing a reason on the spot. "Better weather and there's an architect I really admire on the faculty there." Maya's brow furrowed. She stepped closer, invading my personal space until we were inches apart. I could see the moisture welling in her eyes. "Liam, be honest. Are you still pissed about what I said at your birthday? It was just a stupid thing to say. I didn't mean it. You can't throw everything away because of that." The purest, most innocent crush of my entire teenage life, torn to shreds by her own hands. How could I not be pissed? My dignity crushed on her heel. How could I not take it seriously? I shook my head, managing a small, empty smile. My voice was firm. "No, I'd already forgotten about it. Congratulations on getting into your dream school. With that, I gently closed the door, shutting out all her questions and her confusion. My mom stared at my acceptance letter for a long time. She knew my grades, my scores. MIT had been a sure thing. Honey, did something happen with your final exams? You could take a gap year. I wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Mom, what are you talking about? Georgia Tech is one of the best universities in the country. Their architecture program is legendary. Your son is killing it. You should be lighting celebratory candles or something. My dad was more understanding. He just clapped me on the shoulder. Good for you, son. It's good to get out and see a different part of the country. If you decide you want to stay in Atlanta after you graduate, I'll help you with a down payment on a house. I nodded, a warmth spreading through my chest. As I was packing my things, my mom suddenly slapped her forehead. Oh, I just remembered. Isn't Mark's older daughter, Claire, doing her master's at Georgia Tech? I froze. An image of a cool, elegant figure flashed in my mind. Claire Sullivan, Maya's older sister. She was 2 years older than me, but a certified genius. She'd skipped a couple of grades in middle and high school, and was now in her second year of the master's program for architecture at Georgia Tech. Thinking back, she used to hang out with me and Maya when we were little kids. But she was always quiet, reserved. As she got older and her studies got more intense, we saw less and less of her. I never would have guessed that the gears of fate would shift in such a way that our paths would cross again. Chapter 3 College Life was so much better than I ever could have imagined. Without Maya's shadow hanging over me, it felt like a massive weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I was lighter. The students at Georgia Tech were all the best and the brightest. They were either buried in books or throwing themselves into clubs and activities. The driven, optimistic atmosphere was infectious, and I settled in quickly. I poured all my energy into my major. Architecture, the field I'd been obsessed with since I was a kid, became my sole focus. Maya would occasionally text me a "what's up?" I'd give a polite, one-word answer like studying, and leave it at that. I knew that chapter of my life, the one I had mistakenly labeled first love, was officially closed. During the first semester of my freshman year, the College of Design held a competition for new students. I submitted a bold, innovative design for a community library and, to my complete shock, won first place. Professor Chun, who oversaw the first-year program, was incredibly impressed. She started calling me into her office after class for one-on-one sessions and even hinted that if I kept it up, she'd recommend me for the accelerated master's program. Earning the respect of an industry heavyweight gave me a huge boost of confidence. One afternoon, I was in Professor Chin's office, tweaking some blueprints, when her laptop pinged with an incoming FaceTime call. I started to get up, figuring I should give her some privacy. "Don't go, Liam," she said, answering the call. "Come here, Claire. Take a look at your new mentee's work." On the screen was a young woman with dark-rimmed glasses. Her voice was cool and composed, with a detached quality that seemed to keep the world at a distance. She was seriously discussing my design with the professor. I felt awkward looking too closely, but there was something familiar about her. When they finished, Professor Chun smiled at me. "Liam, you should add your senior mentor on WhatsApp. You can learn a lot from her if you have questions." Before I could even pull out my phone, the cool voice from the screen spoke again. "It's okay, Professor. I already have his number." I snapped my head up and met a pair of familiar eyes on the screen. The face was about 70% similar to Maya's, but more elegant and serious. A small smile was playing at the corners of her lips. "Claire!" I exclaimed, a grin spreading across my face. "Hey," Claire said, her voice warming slightly. "How are you liking college life?" From that day on, Claire and I started talking a lot more. When she finished her research project out of state and returned to campus, she'd often invite me to study with her at the library. She took me on tours of unique buildings around Atlanta and even helped me refine my design projects. She was like a walking encyclopedia of architecture. She could pinpoint the flaws in my work instantly and always offered the most brilliant solutions. With her help, my skills improved by leaps and bounds, and I started making a name for myself in the department. When I was with her, I felt a sense of ease and calm I'd never known. We had the same passions, the same goals. We could talk for hours. It was a connection on a soul-deep level, something I had never, ever felt with Maya. Chapter 4 Not long after the spring semester started, I got a FaceTime call from Maya. I stared at her smiling profile picture for a moment, hesitating before finally swiping to answer. Liam, what are you up to? Maya's face filled the screen, her smile sickeningly sweet. In class, I said flatly. What's up? She pouted. What? I can't call you just to chat. I scoffed internally. After my birthday party, our conversations have been nothing but polite formalities. Who was she putting on this act for? When I didn't respond, she clasped her hands together in a pleading gesture. Okay, there's something I need your help with. Of course there was. She launched right into it. So, next week, Caleb's basketball team is coming to your school for a 3-week exhibition tournament. It's his first time going that far away, and I'm worried he won't know anyone and will have a hard time adjusting. I almost laughed out loud. A 6'3" athlete couldn't handle himself? Did he need his hand held across the street? Seeing my silence, Maya continued in that cloying tone. Please, Liam, can you just look out for him for me? As a favor to me. Just then, Caleb's handsome face squeezed into the frame. He gave me a wave. Hey, man, I'm just coming down to play a few games. Might just need a guy to show me around campus, you know? It won't be a big deal. Looking at his easygoing, charming facade, I found it hard to say no. I got it, I sighed. But just so we're clear, I'm prepping for a huge competition right now. I don't have a lot of free time. You should only call me if it's important. No problem. Maya beamed, thrilled that I'd agreed. After hanging up, I felt a knot of resentment in my stomach. The next day at lunch, Claire and I were eating in the student center. She noticed my mood. What's wrong? Food not good today. For some reason, I could always let my guard down around her. I told her everything about Caleb coming to campus and Maya's ridiculous request. Claire put down her fork, her fine eyebrows knitting together in disbelief. How could she ask you to do that? Doesn't she know that you and Caleb? I gave a bitter smile and recounted the whole story of my 18th birthday party. I'd expected it to be painful to talk about, but as the words came out, all I felt was a sense of finality and peace. Claire was silent for a long time. Finally, she said softly, Liam, you have to let the past go. You're a great guy. She was the one who didn't know how to appreciate you. Her eyes were clear and full of a sincere sympathy that touched me. In that moment, the last lingering shadow in my heart seemed to dissolve in the light. Claire, I couldn't help but ask, why are you so nice to me? She was taken aback by the question. She turned to look out the window for a few seconds before looking back at me, a faint smile on her lips. We're neighbors, and we go to the same school. Who else would I be nice to? Chapter 5, when Caleb arrived, that lingering sense of hometown obligation kicked in, and I went to meet him at the campus entrance. He wasn't alone. A few other players from different schools were with him. As soon as Caleb saw me, he broke into a wide, friendly grin and pulled me into a bro hug. Dude, I can't believe you actually came to get me. Maya really has you wrapped around her finger. With that, he casually pushed his rolling suitcase into my hands. If I hadn't promised Maya, I would have dropped it right there on the pavement. I grabbed the handle and started walking them toward the visitor dorms without a word. When we got to the dorm building, Caleb glanced across the street at a popular strip of restaurants. He clapped me on the shoulder. Liam, man, we came all this way, we're starving. You got to show us some of that famous Southern hospitality and treat us to a good meal. I heard the Korean barbecue place over there is insane. I was speechless. This guy truly had no shame. I shot him a cold look. There's a campus map in the lobby. You can find it yourself. I'm a broke college student. I can't afford to treat you to expensive barbecue. I turned to leave. One of the guys behind Caleb started jeering. Yo, Caleb, didn't you say you had a connection here who'd hook us up? Said we wouldn't have to worry about a thing. Yeah, man, what gives? Another one chimed in. Your girlfriend's friend isn't much a friend. Caleb's face flushed. He was all about his image, and his friends calling him out like that clearly stung. His eyes flashed with anger as he glared at me. Liam, if you don't pay for this dinner, I'm telling Maya. Hearing that, I actually laughed. Is Maya your mom or your parole officer? You gonna tattle on me for every little thing? Tell her whatever you want. I don't have money. Caleb's friends started cracking up. So much for team loyalty. He looked absolutely furious. He whipped out his phone and started a FaceTime call. Maya, hey, we made it to Georgia Tech, but... he started, putting on a wounded look as he glanced at me. I was done with his games. I strode over, snatched the phone out of his hand, and aimed it at my face. They want me to take them to get expensive Korean barbecue, and I said I can't pay for it. That's the whole story. I shoved the phone back into his hand and walked away without another look. Caleb just stood there completely stunned. I hadn't gotten far when my phone buzzed. It was a Venmo notification from Maya for $200. The message read, "Liam, please just take them out. Don't let Caleb look bad in front of his friends." I immediately hit decline and sent back a message. "If you want to pay, you Venmo him." Later that night, another text came through from her. "Liam, Caleb's just like that. He really cares about his reputation. Just try to be patient with him, please." I read the message and shut off my phone. Not a single word of apology. Just a reminder not to upset her precious boyfriend. Thankfully, for the next few days, Caleb left me alone. I was more than happy with the silence. Chapter 6. That night, Claire and I were taking a walk around campus, something that had become a routine for us. The moonlight shimmered on the surface of the campus pond. We sat on a bench by the water, just enjoying the quiet moment. Before long, a series of noises, the kind that make you blush, drifted over from a small grove of trees nearby. I was so embarrassed my toes were curling inside my shoes. I grabbed Claire's hand, ready to make a quick escape. But just as I turned, the moonlight illuminated a familiar figure. I'd recognize him anywhere. It was Caleb. He had his arms wrapped around a girl I didn't know, their movements far too intimate for them to be just friends. I had a vague memory of her. I think she was considered one of the prettiest girls in the foreign languages department. Damn, Caleb worked fast. He'd only been here a few days and was already hooking up with one of our students. Claire's gaze followed mine. She pinched my arm, her cheeks tinged with pink. "What are you looking at? Mind your own business, and let's go." Back in my dorm, I called my dad and told him what I saw. He was quiet for a moment on the other end of the line, then sighed. "Son, that's their mess. You pretend you didn't see anything. Don't get involved, or you'll just get dragged into it." I knew he was right. Given how obsessed Maya was with Caleb, she'd never believe me. She'd just accuse me of being a bitter, manipulative liar. Time flew by, and soon we were at the final submission stage for the National Student Design Competition. The project Claire and I had been working on for months was finally complete. The afternoon we submitted it, we both breathed a huge sigh of relief. To celebrate, Claire offered to take my roommates and me out to dinner. At the restaurant, my 3 roommates took turns toasting Claire, calling her our favorite grad student, and laying on the charm thick. "All right, Carter, spill it. What's the real story with you and Claire?" my roommate Mac asked, slinging an arm around my neck on the walk back to the dorm. "The way she looks at you. You could practically see the sparks." I just shook my head. "Dude, don't be weird. She's my neighbor. An older sister, that's it." No matter how many times I explained it, they never believed me. They were all convinced Claire had a thing for me. And if I was being honest with myself, hadn't I wondered the same thing? But then I'd think about Maya, and the fantasy would pop. I couldn't let myself get carried away again. The day the competition results were announced, I was in the middle of a lecture when my phone started vibrating nonstop. It was a text from Claire. Just a single screenshot of the winner's announcement. The title of our project was right there at the very top of the list, first place national prize. I was so excited I almost jumped out of my seat. The second the bell rang, I bolted out of the classroom. Claire was already waiting for me at the bottom of the stairs. She was wearing a simple white dress, her long hair loose around her shoulders. Bathed in the golden light of the setting sun, she looked like a painting. When she saw me, she hurried over, her face radiant with joy. "Liam." She threw her arms around me in a huge hug, her voice bubbling with excitement in my ear. "We did it. We won first place." Students milling around us stared, their faces a mixture of envy and curiosity. I could feel my cheeks burning, and my heart skipped a beat. When I finally came to my senses, I realized my own arms were wrapped tightly around her waist. Chapter 7, that hug quickly became the top story on the unofficial campus Reddit page and in various group chats. Did Liam Carter from the design school just go official with the brilliant grad student mentor? They're so perfect together. My favorite ship just became canon. Reading the gossip, I felt a strange mix of amusement and anxiety. I quickly texted Claire to explain, telling her it was just people being ridiculous and that she shouldn't worry about it. She replied almost immediately, "Let them talk. We know the truth." She said that, but from then on, The air between us seemed charged with a new, unspoken tension. Soon enough, it was winter break. This time, I was determined to avoid any and all drama involving Maya and Caleb. I bought my bus ticket home in advance, planning to slip out of town quietly. But as I was dragging my suitcase down the stairs of my dorm, I saw a familiar figure. Claire was standing at the entrance to the men's dorm, wearing a long, cream-colored winter coat, her suitcase by her side. She looked like she was waiting for someone. "Claire, what are you doing here?" She pulled off her gloves, her breath fogging in the cold air. "I haven't been home for Christmas in 2 years," she said with a smile. "If I don't go back this year, my parents might disown me. Let's go together." It turned out she'd already bought a ticket for the same bus. With her there, the 8-hour ride home didn't feel nearly as long. When I opened my front door, my mom saw Claire standing behind me. She paused, then broke into a huge smile. "Claire, oh, look at you. You're more beautiful every time I see you. I hope our Liam hasn't been too much trouble for you at school." Claire smiled and shook her head. "Not all, Mrs. Carter. Liam is exceptionally talented and hardworking. My advisor thinks the world of him. She's already talking about him for the accelerated master's program." Really, my mom was practically beaming, grabbing Claire's hand and refusing to let go. On Christmas Eve, as was tradition, our two families got together for dinner. Same upscale steakhouse, same private room. This time, however, the atmosphere was painfully awkward. I couldn't believe that after last year's disaster, Maya had the nerve to bring Caleb along again. The moment she walked in with her arm linked through his, the bright smile on Mrs. Sullivan's face vanished. My parents and I gave them a curt, collective nod of acknowledgement and then said nothing more. The tension at the dinner table was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Claire was sitting next to me. She was quiet, but she didn't miss a thing. Sensing my discomfort, she reached over under the table and discreetly took my hand in hers. Her hand was a little cold, but the contact sent a wave of warmth through me, calming my frayed nerves. She leaned in close and whispered in my ear, "If this gets too weird, we can make an excuse and get out of here." I shook my head slightly, telling her I was fine. During dinner, Maya seemed to sense the awkward vibe and kept trying to overcompensate by piling food onto Caleb's plate. "You have to try this. Their filet mignon is amazing." Caleb, however, ignored the steak and looked across the table at Claire, a slick smile on his face. "You must be the sister Maya is always talking about. It's an honor to finally meet you." Maya blinked, then caught on. "Oh, right. This is my sister, Claire. She's doing her master's at Georgia Tech, same school as Liam." She then turned to me, a confused look on her face. "Liam, Caleb was on your campus for 3 weeks. You didn't even introduce him to my sister." A familiar knot of anger tightened in my chest. All the memories of his arrogance and entitlement came rushing back. I was about to say something, but I felt Claire gently squeeze my hand. She lifted her eyes and gave Caleb a look so cold it could have frozen water. Why would I have met him? I'm extremely busy with my studies. I don't have time to meet just any random person. A single sentence, and the smile on Caleb's face froze solid. "Claire." Maya slammed her fork down on her plate with a clatter that made everyone at the table jump. "How can you talk like that? He's my boyfriend. You can't just call him a random person." Her face was beet red, her eyes wide with indignation as she prepared to defend her man. Claire didn't even flinch. She elegantly dabbed her lips with a napkin, her voice remaining icy and calm. "Oh, he's your boyfriend? Well, that would make him my junior, then. He spends 3 weeks in my university and doesn't have the basic courtesy to introduce himself to me, his girlfriend's older sister. It seems to me he's the one who doesn't have much respect for this family." Her words were logical, precise, and laced with steel. Caleb's face turned an even darker shade of red. He couldn't argue with her point about seniority, nor could he explain why he'd never bothered to say hello. Maya was speechless. She tried to salvage the situation by pulling Caleb to his feet. "Claire, let me introduce you properly. This is my boyfriend, Caleb Jones. We go to the same school." Claire finally deigned to glance at Caleb, giving him a non-committal. Then, as if a thought had just occurred to her, she spoke slowly. "Caleb Jones? That name sounds familiar. I heard there's a massive player at MIT named Caleb Jones. Sleeps around, has girls in every town. But I'm sure it's just a coincidence. Same name, The air in the room seemed to turn to ice. Caleb's face went from crimson to stark white. He shot a venomous glare in my direction, as if I was the one who had snitched on him. I had to hide a smirk. Nice one, genius. He must have seen me and Claire that night by the pond, but was too busy to care at the time. Now, he was trying to pin this on me? He was forgetting that Claire was an eyewitness, too. The meal was officially over. Claire stood up, pulling me with her. She gave a polite smile to the adults at the table. Mr. and Mrs. Carter, Mom, Dad, Liam and I are full. We're going to go for a walk and get some fresh air. And without waiting for a response, she pulled me out of the room, leaving a table full of stunned silence and suffocating awkwardness behind us. The cold winter air felt good, clearing the frustration from my chest as we stepped outside the restaurant. I haven't been back in 2 years. I don't even know what the winter market is like anymore, Claire said, pulling me along by the hand and tucking it into the pocket of her coat. Show me around. Okay. I nodded, the last of my annoyance melting away in the warmth of her hand. Our hometown's holiday market was even more crowded than I remembered. A huge, festive archway decorated with lights stood at the entrance, with people streaming in and out. The air was thick with the mingled scents of roasted nuts, hot chocolate, and pine. Claire was like a kid in a candy store, dragging me from one stall to the next. She'd stop to look at handmade ornaments and then pull me over for a selfie. In the pictures, her smile was radiant. And looking at them, I realized I was grinning too, a real, genuine smile for the first time in a long time. A small stage was set up in the center of the market where a local choir was singing Christmas carols. A massive crowd had gathered, making it impossible to see. Claire stood on her tiptoes, trying to get a better view, but the wall of people was too dense. "Want to see?" I asked. She glanced at me and nodded eagerly, her eyes shining with anticipation. Seeing that look on her face, my heart did a little flip. Without a second thought, I bent down, slid my hand around her legs, and in one smooth motion, lifted her up onto my shoulders. She let out a small gasp of surprise, her body tensing for a second before she relaxed, resting her hands lightly on my head. She pulled out her phone and started recording the choir, completely absorbed. In that moment, the noise of the crowd faded away. All I could feel was the light weight of her on my shoulders and the faint, sweet scent of her hair. It was almost 11 by the time we got back from the market. I walked Claire to her front door. She stood there for a moment, looking at me with an unreadable expression, as if she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. The streetlights cast our shadows long on the pavement. The silence between us was thick with unspoken feelings. In the end, she just gave me a small wave and went inside. Thinking about the look in her eyes, my heart started to pound. Was I just imagining things? A girl like her, beautiful, brilliant, a true prodigy, why would she ever be interested in a quiet, awkward guy like me, whose only redeeming quality was being good at school? I shook my head, trying to push the thought away. I'd overthought things with Maya, and look how that ended. I couldn't make the same mistake again. Just as I was about to get ready for bed, my phone buzzed. A text message. It was from Maya. "Are you and my sister dating?" I felt a surge of annoyance, but texted back curtly. "None of your business." A second message appeared instantly. "Liam, I'm just warning you. Don't get your hopes up. My sister's standards are ridiculously high. She'd never fall for you. You two are not a good match." Her words were like a needle prick to my heart. Maybe she was right, but I still typed back a cold reply. My life is none of your concern. After sending the text, I opened Instagram out of some strange compulsion. Claire, who never posted anything, had uploaded a new 9-photo grid just 10 minutes earlier. The first 6 were pictures of the market lights and decorations. The last 3 were photos of us. One was a shot of her on my shoulders, our backs to the camera. Another was a candid of us sharing a bag of mini donuts. The last one was a picture of us looking at each other, the festive lights blurring into a beautiful bouquet behind us. The post was already flooded with likes and comments. The very first comment was from Maya. It was just 2 question marks. Chapter 10, the next morning, was Christmas Day. My mom shook me awake, telling me Claire was downstairs waiting for me, that she wanted to hang out. I shot out of bed, threw on some clothes, and raced downstairs. Just as I was about to head out the door, Mrs. Sullivan appeared, gently pushing a beautifully dressed Maya forward. "Maya's been cooped up in the house all break. Why don't you take her with you? The more the merrier." Claire's brow twitched almost imperceptibly, but she nodded in agreement. We decided to go to the Six Flags amusement park. The entrance was a chaotic sea of people. Maya, seemingly having decided to make peace, offered to take pictures for Claire and me. As she held up her phone, trying to frame the shot, my eyes were drawn to a couple walking arm in arm toward the cheap motel across the street from the park entrance. I'd recognize that man anywhere. It was Caleb, and the girl in his arms was the same one from the grove of trees on campus. Just a couple of days ago, Maya had told me Caleb had to go home early for a family emergency. Apparently, the emergency was checking into a motel with another girl. I glanced at Claire. She had seen them too, and her expression immediately hardened. Ugh, the lighting is terrible here. It's making you guys look all shadowy. I'm going to try from over there, Maya announced, starting to walk toward the other side of the entrance. The direction she was heading would give her a perfectly clear, unobstructed view of Caleb and his companion. Wait, I called out, trying to stop her. Let's just take pictures inside. But Maya wasn't listening. She was already walking. The next second, she froze, as if she'd been turned to stone. The phone slipped from her hand and clattered onto the pavement. Her eyes were wide, fixated on the motel entrance. Caleb! She let out a raw, piercing scream and sprinted towards them. Claire and I exchanged a look and ran after her. Hearing his name, Caleb instinctively turned. When he saw Maya charging at him, a flash of panic crossed his face, but it was quickly replaced by a look of defiance. Caleb, who is this girl? Where are you going? Maya shrieked, pointing a trembling finger at the girl in his arms. Faced with her fury, Caleb just snorted, a look of complete indifference on his face. It's a hookup, Maya. What does it look like? Maya stared at him, utterly dumbfounded. Her voice shook. But I'm your girlfriend. Girlfriend? Caleb laughed, as if it were the funniest joke he'd ever heard. And what's the point of that? You freak out if I even try to hold your hand for too long. You flinch when I try to kiss you. We're adults, Maya. If you're not going to put out, I'm going to find someone who will. What? Am I supposed to end up like that loser behind you? A virgin for life. His eyes flickered past her to me, his gaze filled with contempt and provocation. With his secret out, Caleb clearly decided to just burn it all down. He roughly pushed Maya away. All right, stop making a scene. I've had more girlfriends since high school than I can count on one hand. You and your sister are so damn uptight. I'm done with this. He turned to leave, pulling the terrified-looking girl with him. Maya, incensed, lunged forward again and grabbed his arm. You tell me what you mean. I gave you everything but the one last thing. Wasn't that enough? That's the only thing that matters. You don't get it, Caleb yelled, shaking her off. He was clearly fed up. He raised his hand and, without hesitation, slapped Maya hard across the face. The sharp crack silenced everyone. Maya stood there, her hand on her cheek. After 2 seconds of stunned silence, her face crumpled, and she sank to the ground, letting out a torrent of heart-wrenching sobs. A crowd of onlookers was starting to gather. Caleb, seeing the situation escalating, dragged the other girl away and disappeared around the corner. I pulled a pack of tissues from my pocket, walked over, and offered one to her. Maya looked up, her face streaked with tears, and slapped my hand away. Don't you dare pretend to be nice, she sobbed. You're just here to laugh at me. You must be so happy right now. I froze, completely at a loss for what to do. Claire walked over slowly and looked down at her sister, her voice as cold as ice. If you're going to have a meltdown, do it at home. You're the one who chose him. Who else is there to blame? After what felt like an eternity, Maya's sobs subsided. She looked up, her eyes red and swollen, and met my gaze. Suddenly, as if I were her last hope, she threw herself at me, clinging to me tightly. Liam, is there still a chance for us? She whispered into my chest, her voice small and pleading. I had imagined this scene 1,000 times. I had imagined her coming back to me, full of regret, and I would reject her just as cruelly as she had rejected me. But now that it was actually happening, I felt nothing but a calm emptiness. There was no sweet taste of revenge. I was about to push her away when a cool, small hand rested gently on my arm. It was Claire. She patted Maya's shoulder. Her voice was even, but held an undeniable finality. Maya, when you miss your chance, it's gone forever. Besides, Liam and I are together now. You should be happy for us. Maya's head snapped up in shock. She looked from her sister to me and back again. Is that true? I met Claire's gaze. Her dark eyes were like the night sky over the winter market, clear and deep. Looking into them, I felt like I could see straight into her soul, to the person who had been quietly supporting me, encouraging me, and warming me all along. I finally understood what I really wanted. I gently disentangled myself from Maya's embrace and reached for Claire's hand, lacing my fingers through hers. Then, I looked at Maya and nodded firmly. Yes, I said, my voice clear and steady. It is. I realized recently that I was just projecting a teenage fantasy onto you. We were never right for each other. But Claire and I, we connect on a level I didn't even know was possible. Claire's hand squeezed mine. She leaned against my shoulder, saying nothing, but her actions said everything. Maya's crying slowly morphed into a broken, hollow laugh. It was a sound uglier than any sob. Fine. I knew something was going on with you too. I wish you the best. You guys have fun. I'm going home. Watching her stumble away, a mix of complicated emotions churned inside me. Is she going to be okay going home alone? I asked, a little worried. Don't worry, Claire said, her head resting on my shoulder. The pain of being cheated on is different from a normal breakup. Once she gets past the hurt and thinks it through, she'll be fine. We turned to look at the amusement park. The crowds were already starting to thin out. I scratched the back of my neck, feeling a little awkward. Well, I guess the amusement park is a bust. But Claire just pulled me by the hand and started walking toward the motel across the street, the same one Caleb had been heading for. First time taking a girl to a motel, a man who looked like the manager asked with a wink as he saw us hesitating by the door. Don't be shy, come on in. We've got one last deluxe king room available. I'll give you a discount, $59 for the night. First come, first served. He practically pushed me toward the front desk. By the time I knew what was happening, my ID was already in the receptionist's hand. Wait, no, we're not staying the night, I said, trying to get my ID back. Right, Claire. I turned to look at her. She was silently taking her own ID out of her wallet and placing it gently on the counter. Claire, what are you? I was completely lost. A lovely blush spread across her cheeks. She looked down, her voice barely a whisper. All that crying earlier. I'm a little tired. I just want to lie down for a while. Holding the room key, my mind still a complete blank, I followed her into the elevator. In the room, I sat down on the sofa and watched as Claire quietly set her purse down and disappeared into the bathroom. When I came out of the shower a little while later, she was already under the covers, with just her head poking out, her cheeks flushed. I'm tired from all the excitement, she said softly. Come lie down. I lifted the corner of the comforter and saw her clothes, neatly folded on a chair by the bed, which meant that under the blanket, she was... That night, we didn't do anything. We just held each other and slept. It was only the next day that I learned motels offered hourly rates. From then on, until the end of winter break, I walked my girlfriend, Claire Sullivan, home every single night.